Hidden beneath the tangled jungles of Central America lies one of the most mysterious and brilliant civilizations to ever walk the earth, the ancient Mayans. These were no ordinary people. Over 4,000 years ago, they built towering pyramids without metal tools, mapped the stars with shocking accuracy, and mastered time itself through complex calendars. And yet, most of what you think you know about them barely scratches the surface. Today, Codex Occulta uncovers 25 mind-blowing facts about the Mayans that will absolutely shock you. From cosmic observatories to sacred saunas, and even bizarre beauty rituals that might make your skin crawl. This is not your typical history lesson. Alright, let's journey into the heart of the Mayan world. You'll never see history the same way again. Fact number 1. The Mayans used enemas to speak with spirits. Yes, you heard that right. While many ancient cultures relied on meditation or hallucinogenic smoke, the Mayans took it much further. During sacred rituals meant to connect with the spirit world, Mayan shamans would administer alcoholic and psychoactive concoctions rectally, yes, through enemas. Why? Because it hit faster, stronger, and bypassed nausea. The goal was to enter a trance so deep, it opened a portal between worlds. They weren't just getting drunk. They were accessing altered states of consciousness to speak with gods, ancestors, and otherworldly forces. These rituals were often paired with music, fire, chanting, and sacred balshe, a honey-based fermented brew reserved for high priests. Modern scientists were stunned to discover that the rectal route really is one of the most effective ways to absorb substances, proving the Mayans were way ahead of their time, even in biology. Mind-blowing? That's just the start. Fact number 2. They worshipped turkeys as divine beings. Forget what you know about turkeys. In the Mayan world, these birds weren't dinner, they were deities. Turkeys were seen as powerful supernatural creatures, capable of crossing between the world of the living and the spirit realm. Their shimmering feathers, strange calls, and nocturnal behavior made them both revered and feared. These birds weren't just symbols, they were active participants in religious rituals. Some rulers even took on names like Lord Turkey to channel their mystical power. Their feathers adorned ceremonial headdresses, their bones were carved into instruments, and their essence was believed to guide dreams and omens. In Mayan art and iconography, turkeys appear as spirit animals, divine messengers, and protectors against dark forces. So next time you see one strutting around, remember, you're looking at what the Mayans once considered a god. And that's only the second fact. Fact number 3. They practiced human sacrifice. And possibly cannibalism. The Mayans didn't just build temples, they fed them. While many know the Mayans performed human sacrifices, few realize the gruesome depths of these ceremonies. Yes, they extracted hearts and painted their victims blue for the rain god Chop, but some rituals took a darker turn. Ancient illustrations and Spanish accounts suggest that after decapitation, elite members of society would cook and eat the remains. The corpses were reportedly placed on massive leaves, seasoned, and roasted. Evidence? Archaeologists found human bones with cut marks and signs of boiling, indicating ritualistic cannibalism may have occurred, especially during times of famine or cosmic events. To the Mayans, blood was sacred. The more painful the offering, the greater the power it released. These weren't mindless acts, they were spiritual transactions with the divine. Horrifying? Absolutely, but it reveals just how complex and deeply spiritual their worldview truly was. Fact number 4. They invented saunas before the Romans. Think the Romans invented luxurious steam baths? Think again. Thousands of years before Roman bathhouses wowed the world, the Mayans were already sweating it out in stone-built saunas deep in the jungle. These ancient steam rooms, made from stone or adobe, were more than just places to relax. They were used for ritual purification, healing, and even spiritual rebirth. To create the steam, they poured water over fire-heated rocks, often adding elderberry leaves to infuse the air with natural medicine. These sweat lodges were used by warriors after battle, women after childbirth, and shamans before ceremonies. The oldest known Mayan sauna, discovered in northern Belize, dates back a staggering 3,000 years, beating Roman spas by centuries. The Mayans believed that sweating cleansed not just the body, but the soul. So next time you're in a sauna, remember, the Mayans did it first, and they did it with purpose. Fact number 5. They built the tallest pyramid in Mexico, and no one noticed. Move over. Pyramid of the Sun. The tallest pyramid in Mexico isn't the one you think. In the misty hills of Tanina, Chiapas, archaeologists from Mexico's National Institute of Anthropology and History made a jaw-dropping discovery. A 1,700-year-old Mayan pyramid standing 75 meters tall, 10 meters taller than the iconic Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan. So why didn't anyone know? Because for centuries, this colossal structure was camouflaged by dense jungle, mistaken for a hill. Beneath the vines and moss lay a massive architectural marvel, combining temples, palaces, and administrative centers into a single monolithic structure, completely unique in Mesoamerican history. This wasn't just a pyramid, it was an entire city in vertical form, rising like a skyscraper from the jungle floor. And to think, the world only found out recently. Fact number 6. They invented zero before most of the world knew it existed, long before Europeans ever scribbled numbers on parchment. The Mayans cracked one of the greatest mathematical breakthroughs in history: the concept of zero. While other civilizations were still scratching their heads over counting systems, the Mayans were using a shell-shaped symbol to represent nothing, a revolutionary idea that changed how time and numbers were tracked. By the 4th century AD, the Mayans had already built a base 20 number system around zero, using it in their long count calendar to track massive spans of time, stretching over thousands of years. To put it into perspective, Europe wouldn't adopt zero for another 900 years. That's how far ahead the Mayans were. In fact, without their concept of zero, their legendary calendars, astronomy, and architecture would have never reached the levels of precision we marvel at today. So next time you check your calendar or calculate time, thank the Mayans. Fact number 7. They played a deadly game that inspired modern sports. Think your last basketball game was intense? The Mayans played a version that was life or death. Their sacred ball game, known as Pak Ta Pak, wasn't just entertainment, it was a cosmic showdown. Picture this: a 3-kilogram solid rubber ball, a stone hoop 6 meters high, and no hands allowed. Players could only use their hips, elbows, knees, and chest to launch the ball through the ring. The ball represented the sun, and the match symbolized the eternal battle between day and night, life and death. And the stakes? Brutal. Some versions of the game ended with ritual sacrifice. The losers, or in some accounts, even the winners, were offered to the gods. These arenas weren't sports centers. They were temples of fate, where crowds gathered to witness athletes become legends or offerings. The echoes of their game still live on in sports today, but thankfully, minus the sacrifices. Fact number 8. Their pyramids tracked the stars, and the Serpent of Light to the Mayans. Architecture wasn't just functional, it was celestial. Take El Castillo, the towering step pyramid in Chichen Itza. Twice a year, during the spring and autumn equinoxes, the setting sun casts a series of triangular shadows on the northern staircase. As the light shifts, it forms the illusion of a massive serpent slithering down the pyramid, ending in a sculpted serpent head at the base. This wasn't a coincidence. It was a cosmic masterpiece, perfectly aligned with the sun's movement and tied to the myth of Kukulkan, the feathered serpent deity. And that's not all. Nearby stands El Caracol, a round observatory aligned with the orbit of Venus. Its staircase points directly to the planet's northernmost rise, and its corners align with the summer solstice sunrise and winter solstice sunset. In other words, the Mayans didn't just watch the sky, they built monuments that moved with it. Fact number 9. They sacrificed children to summon rain. When the sky stayed dry and crops began to wither, the Mayans turned to their gods, and the cost was terrifying. To please Chaac, the rain god, Mayan priests performed one of the most tragic rituals in their culture: child sacrifice. The chosen were often painted blue, symbolizing water in the heavens, then thrown into sacred sinkholes known as cenotes. One of the most infamous sites, the sacred cenote at Chichen Itza, revealed a grim truth. Archaeologist Guillermo de Anda reconstructed over 127 skeletons from its depths. More than 80% were children between the ages of 3 and 11. To the Mayans, this wasn't cruelty, it was desperation, a divine exchange to save their civilization from starvation. It's a chilling reminder of how deeply spiritual and high stakes their belief system truly was. Fact number 10. They were medical pioneers, centuries ahead of their time when it came to healing. The Mayans weren't guessing, they were innovating. These jungle doctors combined spiritual rituals with surprisingly sophisticated medical techniques. Their priests doubled as surgeons and apothecaries, treating everything from wounds to snake bites using herbal remedies, surgical procedures, and even dental implants. Yes, you read that right. Mayan dentists could implant jade and turquoise teeth into live patients. And for stitching wounds, they used human hair as thread. Need a detox? They'd guide you to a steam bath, used to flush toxins, cure fevers, and soothe aching muscles. Their understanding of health was holistic, body, mind, and spirit treated as one. And in many ways, they laid the foundation for practices we still use today. They didn't just build pyramids, they healed their people with brilliance. Fact number 11. One of their greatest cities is being looted right now. Deep in the swamps of northern Guatemala lies Zoltan, a sprawling, lost Mayan city packed with temples, pyramids, and ancient secrets. But this city isn't just endangered by time, it's under attack. Looters, armed with picks and flashlights, are digging illegal tunnels through sacred pyramids, stealing hieroglyphs, pottery, and jade straight from royal tombs. These treasures don't end up in museums. They're quietly sold on the black market, vanishing into private collections around the world. Nearly every structure in Zoltan has been violated, and with each stolen artifact, a piece of Mayan history is lost forever. Despite efforts by archaeologists and local communities, the race is on to document and preserve what's left before it disappears. The mystery of the Mayans is still alive, but so is the threat to their memory. Fact number 12. They altered their babies' skulls and crossed their eyes, on purpose. To the Mayans, beauty wasn't about symmetry. It was about spiritual perfection, and they were willing to reshape nature to get it. From birth, elite Mayan families bound their infants' heads between two wooden boards, gently applying pressure until the skull grew tall and sloped, a shape they believed reflected nobility, intelligence, and closeness to the gods. But it didn't stop there. They also hung beads between babies' eyes, training their vision to become permanently crossed, another prized trait in Mayan culture, associated with the divine. And for the finishing touch? Filed and bejeweled teeth. Mayan dentists would carve teeth into sharp points or embed them with precious stones like jade and turquoise, bling long before grills were cool. In today's world, it sounds extreme. But in theirs, it was a badge of honor. A visible sign that you belong to a chosen bloodline, destined for greatness. Fact number 13. They didn't predict the end of the world in 2012, they predicted a new cycle. Remember the doomsday hype around December 21, 2012? The internet exploded with theories that the Mayan calendar forecasted the apocalypse. Spoiler alert. They never said the world would end. Here's what actually happened. The Mayan long count calendar, one of the most sophisticated timekeeping systems ever created, simply reset after a 5,125-year cycle. That date wasn't a finish line, it was a new beginning, like hitting zero on a cosmic stopwatch. And the calendar itself? It was light years ahead of its time. It used 0 centuries before Europe, had multiple overlapping systems, including a 260-day sacred calendar called the Solkin, and was used to plan everything from royal ceremonies to celestial alignments. So instead of fearing the end, the Mayans saw it as a rebirth. A turning of the wheel. A fresh cosmic chapter. We just misunderstood the message. Fact number 14. Their civilization collapsed after 95 years of drought and war. The mighty Mayan cities didn't fall overnight, but when they fell hard. Archaeologists now believe that the collapse of the classic Maya wasn't caused by invasion or disease. It was triggered by a perfect storm of environmental disaster and internal chaos. Starting around 820 AD, the Mayan heartland was slammed by repeated mega droughts, some lasting decades. Crops failed, reservoirs dried up, cities starved, and as food became scarce, Mayan city-states turned on each other in brutal resource wars. Without rain, the people believed the gods had abandoned them. Their temples emptied, palaces crumbled, and knowledge vanished into the jungle. In just a few generations, a civilization that had dominated Central America for centuries was reduced to whispers among the ruins. It wasn't aliens or prophecy, it was nature, war, and desperation. Fact number 15. Thousands of Mayan structures are still hidden underground. You think we've uncovered everything the Mayans built? Think again. In 2018, scientists used LIDAR technology, a laser-based aerial mapping tool, to scan the dense Guatemalan jungle. What they found stunned the world. Over 60,000 previously unknown Mayan structures, cities, pyramids, temples, and even road systems, hidden beneath centuries of vegetation. It turns out places like Tikal, once thought to be isolated cities, were actually part of a vast interconnected network, complete with highways, fortresses, and sprawling suburbs. That means we've only uncovered a fraction of the Mayan world. The real treasure? Still buried beneath jungle canopies, waiting to be explored. With every new discovery, the map of their civilization grows larger and the mystery deeper. Fact number 16. They perfected the art of chocolate. With spice and fire, forget milk chocolate bars. The Mayans were the original chocolatiers, and their recipe was wild. Over 2,600 years ago, the Mayans were already processing cacao beans into a sacred drink called chocolatl. But this wasn't sweet. It was frothy, bitter, spicy, and absolutely divine, reserved for royalty, warriors, and rituals. They mixed roasted cacao with water, honey, chili peppers, cornmeal, and sometimes blood. The result? A high-powered, nutrient-rich brew packed with antioxidants, capsaicin, and spiritual energy. It wasn't a snack, it was medicine, celebration, and sacrament. And while the Olmecs may have been the first to discover cacao, it was the Mayans who turned it into liquid gold, laying the foundation for the global obsession we have today. So next time you break off a square of chocolate, tip your hat to the Mayans. They made it magical. Fact number 17. They built their cities on active volcanoes while most people would run away from lava-spewing monsters. The Mayans built their civilization right on top of them. In Guatemala, the heartland of the ancient Maya, a fiery chain of volcanoes cuts across the landscape, many of them still active today. Cities like Antigua, Guatemala sit in the shadows of giants like Volcan de Fuego and Pacaya, which regularly rumble, smoke, and spew glowing lava into the night sky. So why build there? Because volcanic soil is incredibly fertile, perfect for growing the sacred crop of maize, the lifeblood of Mayan civilization. They saw these powerful mountains not as threats, but as sacred portals, gateways to the underworld and homes of gods. To the Mayans, living near a volcano wasn't dangerous, it was divine. Even today, you can stand on ancient ruins and watch ash swirl over the horizon, a living connection to a fiery past. Fact number 18. Rivers weren't just waterways, they were spiritual bridges for the Mayans. Rivers weren't just for transport, they were veins of the earth, sacred channels connecting the physical world to the spiritual realm. Take the Cajaben River in Guatemala. Not only does it carve through stunning landscapes ideal for rafting and exploration, but it also flows past communities of modern Mayan descendants, living links to ancient wisdom and tradition. To the Mayans, water was alive. It held memory, spirit, and healing power. Rivers like the Cajaben were believed to be pathways to the underworld, carrying prayers, offerings, and energy to the gods. Even today, ceremonies are performed along riverbanks, echoing ancient rites meant to cleanse the soul, honor ancestors, and maintain harmony with nature. So when you float down a river in Mayan territory, you're not just sightseeing, you're tracing the sacred footsteps of a... Fact number 19. Their math system was so smart, we still use its core today. While most ancient civilizations struggled with counting past a few dozen, the Mayans were crafting a numerical system so advanced it could handle millennia. And it all revolved around a single, powerful idea: base 20 mathematics. Their number system used dots, bars, and a shell symbol for zero, and yes, they were among the first in the world to understand and use zero as a placeholder. That concept was so ahead of its time, it wouldn't appear in Europe until the 12th century. Want to write the number 403? A Mayan would stack 1 dot, 400, a shell, 0, and 3 dots, 3. Elegant, visual, efficient. Their calendar, architecture, astronomy, All of it hinged on this mind-blowing math. Bottom line, the Mayans weren't just building temples. They were building the future of mathematics, one dot at a time. Fact number 20. Mayan names were based on the day you were born. Forget baby name books. The Mayans had a naming system written in the stars and calendars. Each child received a name based on the exact day of their birth, aligned with the sacred Solkin calendar, a 260-day spiritual cycle used to chart destiny, energy, and personality. Names weren't just labels, they were cosmic codes, infused with meaning and prophecy. Some names you might recognize? Fabio meant bean farmer, Aloy was renowned warrior, and Humberto signified big, bright, and intelligent. This system wasn't just beautiful, it was practical. It avoided family feuds over what to call the baby and connected every person to the divine rhythm of time from the moment they entered the world. In the Mayan view, your name was your mission, a clue to your purpose on Earth. Fact number 21. They built an empire without metal tools. Imagine constructing towering pyramids, carving stone temples, and performing surgery with no metal tools. Sounds impossible, right? Not for the Mayans. Despite being classified as a Stone Age civilization, the Mayans pulled off architectural and artistic feats that still baffle modern engineers. Their secret? Obsidian and jadeite, materials sharper and harder than most metals. Obsidian, a type of volcanic glass, could be fractured into surgical-grade blades, sharper than scalpels. Jadeite, so hard it could carve limestone, was used to craft everything from chisels to jewelry. Without bronze, iron, or steel, they still cut, carved, sculpted, and built cities that have survived thousands of years, some even perfectly aligned with stars. They didn't lack tools, they refused limits. Fact number 22. They created spirit houses for the dead. In many parts of the ancient Mayan world, the dead were not forgotten, they were honored as part of everyday life. The Maya built miniature stone dwellings, called spirit houses, where the souls of their ancestors could reside near the living. These sacred structures were often placed at the edges of family homes, near sacred caves, or along ceremonial paths. Inside these tiny shrines, families left offerings of food, incense, maize, obsidian, and jade, gifts to nourish and honor their departed loved ones. It was believed that the spirits would bless the household, protect children, and guide decisions, maintaining a sacred balance between the earthly and spiritual realms. To the Maya, death was not an end, it was a transition. And these spirit houses were portals of connection, keeping the bloodline strong, the memory alive, and the spirit world always within reach. Fact number 23. A Russian woman decoded their ancient inscriptions and changed everything. For centuries, experts believed Mayan inscriptions were just calendars and star charts. Then came Tatiana Proskoryakov, a brilliant Russian-born architect who turned that idea upside down. In the 1950s, while studying monuments at Piedras Negras, Tatiana noticed a pattern in the glyphs. Repeated names and dates that lined up like a royal family tree. Her groundbreaking insight? These weren't just astronomical records, they were historical biographies of real kings, queens, battles, births, and deaths. Published in her 1960 paper, Historical Implications of a Pattern of Dates, her work completely transformed Mayan archaeology. Suddenly, the Mayan script wasn't just sacred, it was storytelling, alive with drama, dynasty, and detail. One scholar called her discovery liberating, and he was right. Her brilliance helped unlock an entire civilization's voice. Thanks to Tatiana, the Mayans are finally speaking to us again. Fact number 24. The Mayans never vanished, they're still among us despite centuries of conquest, colonization, and cultural erasure. The Mayan people never disappeared, they endured. Today, over 5.6 million Mayans live in Guatemala alone, making up around 40% of the population. Millions more reside across Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, in Campeche, Quintana Roo, and Chiapas. Even more powerful? The Mayan language is still spoken by over 800,000 people, making it Mexico's second most spoken indigenous language after Nahuatl. Their traditions, foods, clothing, and rituals live on, woven into daily life and ceremonial gatherings. Their teachers, healers, farmers, leaders, and their roots trace directly back to the pyramid builders, sky watchers, and calendar makers of old. So the next time you hear someone ask, "What happened to the Mayans?" tell them, "Nothing. They're still here, stronger than ever." Fact number 25. They wrote hundreds of books, and the conquerors burned almost all of them. The Mayans weren't just builders and astronomers, they were writers, historians, and philosophers. They filled hundreds, perhaps thousands, of books, known as codices, with knowledge of medicine, astronomy, prophecy, rituals, and history. These weren't ordinary books. They were crafted on durable paper made from fig tree bark, folded like long accordions, and inscribed with intricate hieroglyphs and vibrant illustrations. But then came the Spanish conquest. In one of the darkest moments of cultural destruction, Spanish friars, led by Diego de Landa, burned nearly every single codex they could find, calling them the work of the devil. De Landa himself wrote that the Mayans wept as they watched their history turn to ash. Today, only 3 confirmed codices survive: the Dresden, Madrid, and Paris codices. Each is a priceless window into the genius we nearly lost. It's a heartbreaking reminder. So much wisdom was destroyed, and yet, what remains still astonishes the world. The Mayans didn't just leave behind ruins, they left clues. Clues to a way of life where mathematics was sacred, architecture aligned with the stars, and rituals connected body and spirit. Their world was one of intense meaning, where every symbol, sound, and sacrifice was part of a greater cosmic design. They taught us that time isn't linear, that beauty is purpose-driven, and that the earth and sky are deeply intertwined. And while invaders tried to erase them, they never vanished. Their voices whisper through stone, fire, jungle, and in the heartbeat of their descendants who still walk among us. So as we unearth their secrets and decode their wisdom, we're not just looking back, we're remembering who we were.